reconvening from the closed session. There are no closed session reportables. Will you please join me in the salute to our flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Administering the oath of office of our student trustee, Mr. Caruso.
It's my privilege this evening to administer the oath of office to our newly appointed student representative to the Board of Trustees. I'd like to call up Daniel Stepp. Hi, Daniel. If you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Daniel Stepp, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I swear I will bear truth and faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations, young man. You are on the board.
Welcome, Daniel. We'll enjoy working with you this year. Public comments at this time. Any person may address the board with either an on-the-agenda item or other matters of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. A maximum of 5 minutes will be allowed for each speaker, and a maximum of 15 minutes unless otherwise extended by the board. The board will extend tonight further than the 15 minutes due to the items on the agenda. But if each speaker would make sure that you listen to the speaker before you so you're not repeating the same things. And we will also take public comments at the time when we're doing the voting on the implementation. So if you want to speak on that now, you may, or you can wait until we bring that up in a few minutes. Are there any public comments concerning on the agenda items? Are there any public comments concerning not on the agenda items? There's my wife calling. Can't find out how to get here. Okay, hearing none. Board member reports. Subcommittee selection for our self-evaluation. Lori and John, would you guys do that again this year?
I'll help Lori.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Are there any other board member reports? Foundation report.
Good evening. First, I want to report that the Foundation Board had a retreat. We met for about 6 hours, and we came to some relatively important decisions. One of the things that the Foundation was debating whether to maintain the 3 community foundations or go back to the way that it was in one combined foundation. After the retreat, it was determined that we would remain as we are. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of good discussion about which worked best. We feel like we lost some momentum by being divided, but we also gained some momentum in the individual communities. We also determined, we just appointed a bylaw committee, and we are changing or going to be studying our bylaws to reflect exactly what we're doing as opposed to what we thought we were going to be doing 3 years ago. And the third thing is the foundation board decided that they want to increase the number of scholarships that the foundation gives and increase the amount. So we are dedicating about $25,000 to scholarships for the next fall. And also another $25,000 will go to a fund to provide mini grants to individual programs on campus. And we're developing a process that various programs or departments can apply for those funds. The Hanford Foundation is hosting at their chamber, the Hanford Chamber of Commerce has a Christmas tree auction, and people are going to be able to buy a $250 ornament, and that money will go directly to a Hanford scholarship student. So that we're getting the Hanford Foundation Board up and running. October 27th is the Clary Foundation fundraiser, and I don't have the date, but the golfers on the board or anyone else, we have the Palma family has a memorial scholarship, and the money goes to Prentice students, and they are having a golf tournament end of this month, and I will email you additional information. Any questions?
Thank you. Accreditation report, Dr. Lucena.
Hi, everybody. Today we had our pre-accreditation site visit. So Superintendent Carasosa and I spent half of the day with Willie Duncan. He's the president of Sierra College and the chair of our accreditation visit. He was here with his assistant, his executive assistant, Janae Holman. And so we spent the morning with them, and we had a very productive meeting. Both Superintendent Carasosa and I felt very confident coming out of that meeting, and we're looking forward to the visit coming up. We worked on the schedule that visits, what they'll do during the 4 days that they're here. We're going to be starting with an opening reception on Monday, October 8th. It'll be kind of a little continental breakfast here on campus, and the board, community members, students, faculty, and staff will be invited to join us there. That's Monday, October 8th, to meet the team and chance to see who they are and ask questions. We'll have 2 open forums with the visiting team. The first one will be on Tuesday morning, October 9th, and we'll get you the date and the time and location once we finalize the exact schedule. And the second one will be Wednesday afternoon, October 10th. And both of those open forums are open to community members, faculty, staff, students, anyone who's interested to come. And it's an opportunity to address the visiting team, to ask questions, and to make any comments. There will be an exit forum on Thursday, October 11th, around 1:30 on Thursday, the 11th. We'll get you again the exact time, and at that time they will give us some final comments, findings that they had while they were here during the visit. They did request to meet with the board chair and to also meet with 1 or 2 of the board members. So we'll be setting that up. They're going to be working on their schedule over the next week, and we'll have the final times and schedule in 2 weeks. They will be meeting with our different committee leads across campus, our Senate president, our program review chairs. Daniel, they'll want to meet with ASB, so they'll all work with you on meeting with you and our ASB group. Our president's here, so I'll work with you on getting some meetings, possibly coming and sitting in on the ASB class while they're here. There are several meetings happening that week, like College Council and Academic Senate, and they'll want to attend some of those meetings. Our Basic Skills Essential Learning Initiative Committee, they'll attend some of those meetings. They'll visit all 3 of our campuses, so they'll be going out on Wednesday morning, Kristen, to Hanford and to Hanford and the farm on Wednesday morning. They will also, several of them will join us on October 8th at the board meeting at the new Tulare College Center. And they will just give a little welcome at that introduction at that board meeting. They've asked us, Superintendent Carasosa and I, to work on a 90-day update. So looking at what have we accomplished over the last 90 days. So we'll be updating them on some of the different things that have happened since the report was finalized in May since we have a new superintendent and all of the other changes that have occurred over the last 90 days. So that's a general overview, and we're really looking forward to it. Again, I'll get you all a finalized schedule in 2 weeks. Any questions?
On that October 8th, meeting, you have a time yet?
That should be at 8 o'clock. They want to get started early, so the October 8th opening reception will be from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. in room 1. And again, all community members are welcome to come to that, so it'd be great if we had a big showing from the community to show their support, and staff, faculty, students. So I'll work with ASB as well to get students information on those different open forums. Okay? Thank you very
All
much.
right, good luck.
Thanks.
Superintendent President's report, Mr. Caruso.
I don't have an official report tonight. I would like to say thank you to the staff who helped us make arrangements to move the location of our meeting and make the special accommodations in here with the tables and the sound equipment and so on. We hope that it's a little bit more comfortable for what we anticipated, a little bit larger audience, especially to review the fourth quarter budget report and take a look at the adopted budget being proposed for 12-13, which come up just a little bit later on the agenda. I did want to take the opportunity tonight, though, to defer my time for reports to ask our student Daniel Stepp to give his first official report to the board. As you know, each year the ASB selects a student representative to represent students on the board of trustees, and so Daniel's graciously stepped forward and been willing to do that. We've sworn him in tonight, and now he's ready to give his first report. So Daniel, I'll turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardozo. So far, ASB has an orientation for the Student Services Fair, and basically, I don't know how many of you know what that is, but people from different departments in the school come out and they tell all the services that COS does for the students, and it's a big, in the quad, big old thing with a bunch of tables and representatives. Initially, we had 3 empty positions on the board, and now we've appointed the 3 new people. One of them dropped out, so we had to appoint another one. And now we have a full executive board, and I'm really excited for what they're going to do. They seem to be a very active group in the community. We have a lot of different, wide range of people from different things on the campus. Tomorrow's our meet and greet with the president and many of the faculty and higher-ups, and me and Kayla, raise your hand, ASB president. It's tomorrow morning from 9 to 10. Guys come out and get donuts, juice, or water. They look nice getting because yeah, we wanted milk and they said.
I used to check.
They said,
Here, I'll let you get away with it this year.
Club Social is September 13th, 3 to 4 p.m. It'll be the Student Services patio area. It'll be all the club officers and advisors come out and do icebreakers, and they have food, and they just get to know each other and keep the clubs out during the building. The Constitution Day, September 18th, it's from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. ASB students will decorate the campus with like flags and red, white, and blue. And then there will be people handing out miniature-sized Constitution booklets. And there will be a college Republican and college Democrat voter registration of the quad. And this is the first time that ASB is hosting it, so we'd like to see you guys out there. The ASB campus and the campus newspaper want to work together with STEM to make an open forum sometime like once a month for students to come in and have a Q&A with them. It's going to be open to the public, and I'd like to get the word out. And then we're hosting Club Rush September 27th. Also, Multicultural Fair the same day. Basically, Club Rush is where all the clubs come out and they recruit new members, and they just let them know what the clubs are about. Usually there's mostly the quads filled up. This year we're having it with the Multicultural Fair, which is to celebrate the culture differences in all of us. It's going to be a big event. It's going to be during Homecoming Week, which is the 24th to 29th. And ASB is planning to do different things during the week. There's a rally event Tuesday the 25th, which we're going to do a picture scavenger hunt. They're going to do dance contests and prizes, etc. And then the homecoming game is September 29th 4 p.m. So far, we haven't actually planned this, but we're hoping to have a tailgate for the opening game and a formal program meeting. And that includes my... Any questions?
Good report. All right, Academic Senate President's Report. I'm going to be moving action item 8 up after these reports, so we can, I know there's people here from the public that would, from the community that would like to leave early, so we'll be moving that up ahead of the general obligation bond so we can discuss that. But Academic Senate President's Report.
Thank you. Last night, or yesterday, the Board of Governors voted to standardize the way that we are going to do priority registration for all students. And the ironic thing is, it looks exactly like the policy that we've adopted. So we're actually ahead of the game. And I know a lot of people will be scrambling to get this done by 2014. And I'd just like to thank right now Francis Gussman and Dean Tamara Ravelin for the work that they did on this particular issue with the Senate. It took us almost 2 years. Sometimes we thought we weren't on the right track, but because of all the work that Francis has done with achieving the dream, not only were we on the right track, again, I think they copied us. So. Last week, Joni Jordan and myself met with a variety of people, the Costa leadership twice, and also President Carrizosa and the VP, the interim VP, Jennifer Lacerna. And I just want to thank them. You have a copy of Joni's letter. I sent it to your email. I'm sure you're aware of the issues in that letter. We are looking at an avalanche of courses right now. Repeatable courses, TMC degrees, standalone courses, and course currency issues. Our meeting with Costa was really wonderful. They saw that we were having issues with this particular work the contract strategy, and what they've done is support the Senate and the curriculum committee, and we will probably have a forum this Wednesday. We'll be sending you large packets of curriculum, so I know you haven't seen any in a while. And I've asked Joni to be here, so if you have any questions for her about what she'll be doing, Joni, you want to come up?
Okay, just for that, I would have to answer any questions.
I know. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about curriculum.
Well, I would just like to ask a question. Are a lot of them new, and if so, why, or why so many are ready?
We have a backlog of curriculum that was sort of in our pipeline when we ceased work processing them. So we have those, and we run through a bit over 200 courses a year, 200-300 courses a year. So there's roughly 150 in the pipeline right now. We also have a new Title V languages come from the state that's stripping repeatability from all courses on campus. So for instance, in PE and fine arts, where we have something over 120, 130 courses that currently are repeatable, students can repeat those courses even if they successfully completed one time, another time for practice and repetition building skills. Those all have to be gone, and the courses, if they want them to be leveled into beginning, intermediate, and so forth, they've got to write separate course outlines for them. So it has sent our faculty into quite a flurry of what they're going to do, and it all has to be done between now and November. So we're in panic mode. Anything else?
Thank you. The SAFA President report, or excuse me, CASA President report.
Good evening, all. A few short remarks. With the imminent imposition, faculty is very disappointed that the board members refused to negotiate a settlement on the health benefit issue. I'm disappointed that you have already spent, if the figures are correct, nearly $80,000 this year on attorneys to defend your inflexibility. And also disappointed that you would jeopardize the upcoming accreditation and student success over your one-sided approach to the detriment of many other folks. There are too many master agreement violations, including this one, occurring at the moment. And I want all to listen. This is important. This is not a popularity contest about who is more popular, the board or the faculty. It is about legalities. What the board has insisted on in negotiations for 2 years is illegal. The act it is considering tonight is illegal on its face, and that illegality is backed up by fact-finding. Please remember, the last time an issue like this had to be litigated at the board's insistence, it cost the public hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the court decided in faculty's favor. That could be repeated here. Thank you for your time.
CSEA President's Report.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to say CSEA, in my 20 years as president, has always bent over backwards to try to find resolutions in good times and in bad times. Never once have I remembered that CSEA has not come forward to find a resolution. And with any good negotiations, usually both sides walk away not happy. We're now faced with what we know is what the state primarily has caused for us, but not all of it, because some of it is our fault ourselves. Right now on campus, there is a lot of high anxiety, as you can well imagine, but especially now, because what is happening now is creating an unhealthy atmosphere for everybody, and it's quite frankly not a pleasant place to be. Do we need to be here? I don't think so. But CSEA, right now, and personally, I'm very frustrated, and I'm going to tell you why. Part of it is, I don't like to see the COS family, because the COS family throughout the state is well respected for who we are. And that's because who we are, and hopefully who we will still be, is a group of professionals from the board to the bottom. I mean, all the way was a team that worked together, and everybody wanted to work here. I know in some of our latest goings out for employees and stuff, we have not gotten the pools we used to. I don't know the reason for that. I can surmise, possibly, people hear what's going on. Also, the state issues of money. There's a lot of possibilities. But that makes me nervous. I do not want COS, the family of COS, to come down from where we have been in my 25 years here. This is a great place to work. It is a great place for students to learn, and it's been a great family. And some of what has happened is caused by not just one side, but all sides not listening all the time. And it reminds me, when all this started happening, it reminds me of Dr. Lombardi, for those of remembering when he was here. He and I became close friends, and he disliked crowds, but he loved to see the jazz concerts in the theater. So anytime there was a music thing going on in the theater, he would come up into the booth and lean over my light board and enjoy and discuss what's going on. Well, some of the stuff he imparted to me, his wisdom, because he had a lot of experience in schools, and two things he told me have resonated, and I have brought those forward through the years, but have not been listened to for whatever reason. One of those was he told me, and I told Dr. Bodricon exactly what he said. Whoever's taking over for me needs to know that I don't know how West Hills got Frank Gornick, but you better watch out for your center status because he is going to steal it away. Those were Dr. Lombardi's exact words. And I told Kim that, and Kim said, oh, don't worry about it, that won't happen. I sat in a meeting when Jim Costa said, don't worry, I'll make sure you have center status. And we all know what happened to that. And that's because we didn't listen to each other. We just thought, oh, it's not going to happen. The other one Dr. Lombardi said was, when you build buildings or build new campuses, and I know we're planning to do that, at Saddleback we made sure we had an endowment fund or a reserve fund set up for those facilities because of utilities and staffing is going to be a must. And if you don't plan for it, you're going to be in trouble. And for those who have sat on the college council for me at least the last 10 years, well, most of them said I harped on it. We needed to set up something for the Tulare Center. We needed to plan for that. Dr. Scroggins says, you're right, we'll do that. And every year I brought up the same issue. Well, don't worry about it. The finances are good. We'll be able to open it up. Again, where are we standing? I mean, the whole state debacle, that's not our fault. But had we done some pre-planning like we had talked, we would not have been in the position we are now. And I think that whole listening thing comes to the point of where we are now. And, oh gosh, I'm terrible with time, so I'll say sometime during Dr. Badr Khan's reign, at least 12 years ago, I think, CSEA came forward about our benefits plan. CSEA has led the charge in my tenure at least 7 times about benefits planning. And we came forward with 3 new plans that would save the district money. They were better plans than what we had, because the plan we had was a custom plan, and it was costing a lot of money. We brought it to Dr. Badr Khan in negotiations. He said he would look into it. He sat down with Lee Quello, our labor rep, and myself after about a week, and these are his exact words. We've decided not to change what we have. We like who we're with, and we're going to stay. And we said, but this is how much extra money we're spending on this. He said, that doesn't matter. The district's paying the bill, so we're going to do it. And I said, so you're going to waste good money just to stay where you are without exploring? He said, yes. That's part of where my frustration comes from, because that is not the only time that has happened. We came forward in negotiations knowing tough times were ahead. You all know me, I sit here, I know what the state we're in, I know what the state's in. It's hitting us all. Dr. Scroggins came to me and said, I have some out-of-the-box ideas, would your team listen to them? I thought, absolutely. So we sat down to very out-of-the-box ideas and decided, all right, let's move forward. And I kid you not, when we were about to write up the tentative agreement, sitting in the room, Brent, John, there was the whole team sat there. We were putting the language down for the tentative. Dr. Scroggins, for what reason, I don't know why, brought up 2 items we had never discussed. Says, well, in the tentative, we need this in there. We went, whoa, wait a minute, those are huge items. We can't do that. It was almost like he was purposely doing something to sabotage what's going on. We said, we need a caucus. We went in, does anybody know where this came from? We didn't know. We went in to meet with Dr. Scroggins. He said, well, you know what? That's what it is now, and if we're done, we're at impasse. Very glibly, with a smile on his face. And that frustrated me, because of all the work we'd gone through, and he just kind of sloughed us off and said, we're at impasse. I don't believe that was legal, that we should have gotten impasse that fast, but here we are. In mediation, we met with Brent Callan. He came forward with some ideas. We met with those ideas. We agreed with him. He came back to you, and you turned those ideas down. Now, I understand why. Because in the time we had met with Brent and came back to you, the state dropped another bombshell on top of us. So I understand that. But then talk stopped again. We now have a new president. We met on mediation, and this is where a lot of frustrations come in, because I don't know the full story behind it. We came in with a lot of hard cuts, a lot of hard things, a lot of hard decisions to make, because we know what needs to happen. There's no secret. We sat down with the mediator and asked, can we talk about anything besides the white elephant with the baseball cap on his head? He went in and came back and said, no. And we said, well, we have some ideas. We're willing to talk. He came back and says, you need to set another date because you need to meet with your membership. That to me was extremely frustrating because we had worked hard to bring this college through these rough times as best we can. And we weren't able to even dialogue at all. Now, whether that was you, the board, telling the president, we don't want to hear ideas, I don't know. If that was indeed true, I don't think that's a very good decision because all ideas need to be heard because you never know who's going to have the right one. If it was the president's decision to say, I don't want to hear anything, then I don't think that's a good thing either because that's not going to help the COS family. And if it was the mediator not putting forward exactly what was said by both sides, which is completely possible again, I don't know. I just know that we are standing here trying to find another meeting to come back and hopefully we're going to be listened to. Because we have come forward with many cuts and ideas throughout the years. Some of them we came forward with 3 or 4 years ago. Dr. Sprague took some but not others, but some of those others in the last couple of years have been implemented just because of the sheer fact of where we are on the budget. The number one question I'm getting right now is the COS, CSEA, the classified staff is down to about 177 employees. We were up around 200. Cuts have been made. The faculty, the adjunct faculty have been cut down. The number of students have been cut down. And yet, according to the administration, we have 35 administrators still on staff. Those are the highest cost, and yet their numbers remain the highest we've ever had, and everybody else has come down. So the question they keep asking me, how is that possible? I said, I don't know. And that's a question I think we need to discuss and dialogue and learn from, because those are the high salaries. And now where we sit now, the kinds of cuts we're talking about, which are blanket cuts, hurt the little guy the most. CSEA is just about classified about a quarter of the budget. But our salaries are the least. So a blanket cut to us hurts a lot more than it does as you go up that ladder. So that's why we had some other ideas how to save money, as well as how to help with the benefits, etc. I mean, there's just a lot out there. And as you can see, there is a lot of frustration in my voice because I've never come up against a wall where nobody's willing to listen. And as I say, this last session, for those who were, well, my negotiating team sitting in the room, I got very quiet. And it reminded me of the time, as all us parents know, when your kids push that button and you feel that inner fury coming up inside and you're like, I don't want to explode in them, but you do. I could feel that inside me bubbling. It's like, no one's even going to listen to us. I don't want to see that happen. So I'm asking you, the board and the president, this whole mediation process, we need to move past that. We need to sit down and discuss things because we know there's hard cuts to be made and we are willing to do our share, do our part. There is no doubt about that. I think that's all I have to say. For the classified staff, as I say, a lot of people are scared. And they have good reason to be because the state has put us in this position. But it's not all their fault. The Tulare Center not pre-planned. The Hanford not getting center status. We had position to do that, and we did not listen to each other. So I just ask you all to please think about what you're doing to the COS family. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Gustavo, President's report.
President report, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to move item number 8, item 8, the resolution 2012-24 up at this point. I know we have some people that need to leave, but this is an important item. Mr. Carasosa, you want to make some comments?
Okay, to open this item, first of all, thank you to,
Michael.
I think they can hear me okay.
Can you hear him all right?
Maybe there's one right here.
Okay, now you can hear me a little bit better? Because I'm sure a few out there that didn't want to hear me. I want to thank the staff who spoke relative to this action item. What's before the board tonight on item number 8 is the resolution to implement a maximum annual district contribution toward the full cost of health and welfare premiums for full-time faculty represented by the College of the Sequoias Faculty Association, and also to include in that action all management and confidential employees, as well as all members of the Board of Trustees. There's no doubt, you guys, that this has been a pretty emotional issue for a long time, and I appreciate Steve sharing his heart with us and the comments that Ed came forward to make. And I think you raised, the same kinds of important concerns that we've all been facing. I can tell you a little bit from the board and administration's perspective that nobody's enjoying this. I don't think this is a good time for any of us. No one's having fun in this process. It's a difficult process. I think it's a little bit unfair to characterize people as unwilling to listen when there is an opportunity to talk and to listen. The reality is, though, we're not always going to agree. And we do have some critical issues now at which I think there's pretty deep philosophical differences. And when you talk about the elephant in the room wearing the hat, what we're talking about is some sort of a negotiable cap on the cost of annual premiums that the district pays for all employees to have health insurance. And right now we have unlimited premiums. We have the opportunity to have a health plan that covers ourselves as employees, our spouses, all of our eligible dependents, and it pays 100% of the cost for those premiums. And we don't have major copays or deductibles with the exception of some office copay and some prescription copay. It's a very good health insurance plan, but it's also over $16,000 a year per employee for the total package. So it's a significant cost, and without any kind of a negotiable limit, without a structure in place that says this doesn't automatically go up, you put an elected school board of trustees in a position to have to balance a budget with public funding without having any control over the reductions that the state can make in the revenues, and on the other end, no control over the increase that insurance companies can put on the premiums. Yet they're entrusted with the responsibility to balance a budget made up of your taxpayers' dollars. And structurally, it's not practical. It doesn't make sense. And so it's a very hard decision, and I know that it's affecting us as individuals, but when we had the opportunity to talk about out-of-the-box ideas with CSEA, for example, we're very willing to listen to those. And I don't know if Joe shared information back and forth appropriately, but what I can tell you, Steve, is that we were not unwilling to listen to the other ideas. We just wanted to know from CSEA's perspective, are you willing to understand and accept that one of the structures the board needs to balance this budget is to have a negotiable cap on premiums? When the answer came back and said no, then we could have argued the same back to you. You're not very willing to listen, are you? But I know that wasn't exactly how it went, okay? And so, and I understand the questions about the legality of it, and we'll probably have to play this out further down the road with Costa about whether or not it was appropriately sunshined and whether it was appropriately brought forward to negotiations. We've put all of our information out on the table. You see it in the resolution. You recognize what we're trying to accomplish here as a district. I think in one way or another, you've all said the same thing. This is an issue bigger than us. It is. We have state budget cuts that none of us planned for. We're reacting to those in the best way that we know how. The commitment that we've made to all of you is the college is not going to fail. No one of us, administration, board, association, or Costa, is bigger than the college itself. We have to do what's best for the college as a whole. You know that we've lost revenue. There's no argument about that. I think there's some debate over how much reserves we have in which funds and whether or not we should use all of them at once or use them over the next couple of years. The board's been willing to spend down reserves as long as we're also making cuts and getting the budget in balance. But we have to have a plan for solvency.
And this is one big part of it that I see coming. I appreciate the comments that Ed made about legal counsel and wanting to make sure that we keep legal costs in check. This year, for example, the $79,000 that's been spent in the last 6 months on legal fees included the fees for both School Services of California and some fees for legal counsel to provide us support in the negotiations process. Maybe you can call that a waste of money, but I think the board has a responsibility to do things legally correct. And because it is important that we account to the public for the legal expenses we have, we should think about making as much as we can public and transparent. One of the things that we spend money on, for example, seeking legal counsel, is to manage the grievances that you all file. So one strategy to come up with a way of accounting for that is to develop a grievance log. And let's publish the grievances, and let's let the faculty and the college community and the business community know these are the things that we're working on as a district here, and these are the kinds of things that these legal costs are going to. Another thing that I think we can do is we can negotiate in public. Negotiations doesn't have to be confidential, doesn't have to be closed door. That's not the law. The law says we can come forward and we can make a proposal to you to hold our negotiations in open public session. We can post them in accordance with the Brown Act. And then we wouldn't have to worry about knowing who said what in negotiations. It'd be public. I'm very willing to do that. I'm willing to bring that resolution forward and ask the board to consider that. You would have to respond and say, yeah, that's a good thing. We have nothing to hide. Let's take negotiations and let's make them public. So if we want to be accountable, if we want to show that we really are committed to what we believe and we really are trying to work together as a team or a family, if you want to refer it that way, then we shouldn't be fighting and trying to hide anything and pointing fingers. The best way I know how to do that is to be open, be honest, and be transparent. So the resolution that's before you tonight is a resolution to implement, if you will, this cap on the premiums. It's the final step in what is a due process through the state law on collective bargaining, and it happens only after you've exhausted going to impasse and going through mediation, going to fact-finding, and then post-fact-finding negotiations. We're not that far along with CSEA yet, and I hope we can reach agreement the next time that we get back together. But at this time, I'd like to turn it back over to you, Mr. President, and I know that you have Vice President Cardoza prepared to read the resolution.
Yes. Thank you, Stan, for your comments. Vice President Cardoza, would you please read the resolution?
Everybody hear me? Whereas present and projected reductions in state revenue allocated for funding for California community colleges continue to result in significant cuts in funding for the College of Sequoia's Community College District and necessitate that this Board of Trustees consider all available options and expenditures. And whereas the cuts in the college's state funding for 2011-12 totaled $4,101,216. And whereas the governor's budget for 2012-13 includes significant additional reductions for the college, which will result in a projected loss of funding in the amount of an additional $2,715,269,000. Whereas the district pays the total cost of all annual premiums to provide full-time faculty represented by the College of Sequoia Teachers Association and their eligible dependents with health and welfare benefits, including medical, dental, and vision coverage. And whereas the district has continually provided these fully paid benefits despite persistent and unrestrained escalation in the district's annual per faculty member cost from a total of $14,769.68 in 9-10 to $15,714 in 10-11 and to $16,868 in 11-12. And whereas in an effort to contain the relentless escalation in these costs, the district's April 2010 initial proposal for its successor contract with Costa, specifically listed as Article 10 on employee benefits, stated renegotiate existing employee benefits. And whereas on July 22nd, 2010, the district provided Costa with its revision to Article 10, whereby the district proposed that its maximum annual per employee contribution for the premium cost for medical, dental, and vision benefits be capped at the 2009-10 rate of $14,769.68. And whereas, in response to Costa's request, the district transmitted additional copies of its Article 10 proposal to establish the cap to Costa's chief negotiator on August 11th, and again on September 8, 2010, and thereafter the parties negotiated on 10 separate occasions between September 10, 2010 and February 4th, 2011, when the district declared impasse. And whereas on February 14, 2011, the district filed a request for impasse determination with the Public Employment Relations Board, including among the unresolved issues its Article 10 proposal for a cap on the district's annual contribution toward medical, dental, and vision benefits at rates in effect during 2009-10, and on February 23, 2011, HERB granted the district's impasse request in its entirety. And whereas, when after meeting with the HERB, appointed mediator in the fall of 2011, the parties failed to reach an agreement, the mediator certified the case for fact-finding and a hearing was held April 12, 2012. And whereas the district and Costa received the advisory fact-finding report on July 4, 2012, and after careful consideration of the recommendations contained in that report, the district met with Costa for post-fact-finding mediation on August 23, 2012. And offered to increase its proposed maximum annual contribution toward medical, dental, and vision to the 2010-11 rates, which was $15,714, rather than the 09-10 rates of $14,769.68. But Costa did not respond to this proposal, and the parties remained in impasse. Whereas during the 2 years since the district first presented Costa with its Article 10 proposal to cap the district's maximum annual contribution for employees' medical, dental, and vision benefits. And throughout negotiations and the statutory impasse procedure, the district has maintained that the cap is critical to control spiraling increases in employee benefit costs and crucial to protecting the college's fiscal solvency. And whereas the board has determined that it is in the best interest of students, employees, and the public to implement the district's proposal on Article 10, employee benefits, attached as Exhibit A. Whereas the board's goals in implementing that offer are as follows. Number 1, to protect the district's solvency. 2, to minimize any negative impact upon the students of this district. 3, to continue future negotiations in good faith and as mandated by law for a successor contract covering, among other terms and conditions, health and welfare benefits for all district employees. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board finds that for the ongoing fiscal solvency of the district, it is imperative to limit the relentless escalation in costs associated with providing faculty and their dependents with fully paid medical, dental, and vision benefits beginning in 12-13 academic year and thereafter. Be it further resolved that of the issues set forth in the fact-finding report dated July 4, 2012, this board's action is limited to Article 10, employee benefits. And to that extent, the board hereby implements the district's proposal to modify Article 10 employee benefits by adopting a maximum annual per employee district contribution of $14,769.68 toward the cost of medical, dental, and vision benefits for Costa bargaining unit members effective November 1st, 2012. Be it further resolved that consistent with protecting the district's ongoing fiscal solvency, the board hereby also adopts and implements a maximum annual per employee district contribution, $14,769.68, toward the cost of medical, dental, and vision benefits for all management and confidential employees, as well as for members of the Board of Trustees, effective November 1st, 2012. Be it further resolved that the board hereby directs the district administration to take the steps necessary to implement a cap on the district's annual contribution for medical, dental, and vision benefits at $14,769.68 per year, and to ensure that any amounts owed in excess of the district's maximum contribution for health and welfare benefits be paid by individual employees by way of automatic monthly payroll deductions. Be it further resolved that the board's designee is directed to provide written notice of the contents of this resolution to Costa and each individual unrepresented employee of the district. Said notice to be provided as soon as possible.
Thank you, Lori. At this time, I'll take public comments on the item. No public comments. Do I have a motion to approve? Second. Okay, we have a first and a second. And we're going to have a roll call vote, but before that, our trustee that's not here sent me an email and asked me to read his thoughts on this. Since I am not able to be present at today's meeting, I would like the board and the others to know that I fully support the adoption of Resolution 2012-24 with the implementation of maximum annual contributions of healthcare plan to the full faculty, management, confidentials, and board members. The reduction in state funding in excess of $6.5 million over the last 2 fiscal years makes this step, among other things, necessary in order to ensure the fiscal stability of the college for now and into the future. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cardoza.
Aye.
Trustee Zumwalt.
Aye.
Trustee Mann.
No.
Trustee Sherman.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, we'll go back to our agenda. Anybody that would like to leave at this point, you're sure welcome to. We're going to continue on with the meeting. We do have action on the budget today too, so you may want to stick around for that. Okay, obligation bonds. Maybe I ought to take a couple of minute recess while people leave. Take a couple minutes. Obligation bonds, just talking about on Major Rise. On Major I, it's just talking about the next meeting in March 9th of 2013, and then on Major J, talking about the meeting in October. Information item, low enrollment classes, justification report, Dr. Lucena.
Okay, you have attached to your agenda the low enroll justification report. And I just wanted to mention that the low enrolled courses follow our AP 4071 and our BP 4071, which states that our low enrolled classes for a laboratory class are 15 is the minimum, and for a lecture course is 20. So when you look down the list, it's divided by our different divisions, and many of these are classes. If you look in agriculture, for example, it says the Hanford class had 16 enrolled. So they met the minimum at the first day of the semester, but students drop, and this report is done the third week on the census date of the semester. So between the first day when there were sufficient students and the third week of class, a couple of students dropped. There's other courses, for example, in business, it's just under it's 18, which is just under the 20, but it's a graduation requirement, which is one of the followings of the AP. When you look in fine arts, actually those classes, the first class, they're stacked together, meaning they're offered at the same time. Those classes are at really close to minimum 14. The second course is now at 15, which is the minimum. The late start classes, what that means is they have not met yet, or they've only met one time, and so they still have a couple of weeks to get enrollment up, and students enroll in those music classes the first day that they show up normally. For the industrial technology classes, most of these classes are stacked, meaning they're offered at the same time. So although it looks like there's only 11 students, you actually add them together, and then they come up to the minimum requirement of 15. When you look in language arts, the next section, the classes that are there are all at 19, so they're in one of the 20 recommended, but they're all either the only offering of the course or they're the last course, like an advanced course, so the students need that course to finish the degree. In math and engineering, there's only one course, but it's a major course at 13, and it is a lab course, so it's only required to have 15. Our physical education, those are the smaller teams that they are sometimes under 15 students, like our equestrian, volleyball, cross country. So some of our smaller teams are allowed to go because they don't have the space to have 15 students. Science, the organic chemistry is a majors course. It's 14, so it's within one of the lab. Our social science course, there's one course for our honors program that we allowed to go through, low enrolled at 13, and we're in discussion right now about the honors program, looking at those low enrolled new courses for the spring. And then our Association of Justice course is the only section of that course in Hanford with that district. So all of these, it's not an overwhelming number. Some of the other courses that were low enrolled, we have canceled. been all over the news, our veterinary technology program, and there's some other courses that we're looking at right now. But they do follow the AP, and they're all within reason for allowing them to go within 1 or 2 classes in there. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Quarterly financial report. Ms. Fernandez.
Good evening. Ms. Hernandez is under the weather, so I will be providing the report tonight. This is our quarterly financial report that's provided, that we file with the state chancellors every quarter. And this is our 4th quarter report that includes our last quarter of the fiscal year 11-12. On the first page, it shows that it's the unrestricted revenue that we ended with $45,027,247, and our unrestricted expenditures were $45,321,734. That was a loss of $294,487, and adjusting with our prior year adjustments, our ending fund balance was $2,714,760, giving us an ending percent of 6%. If we turn to the next page, at the very top, it shows our cash excluding borrowed funds. You'll notice it's kind of light, but it's a negative $5,138,170. And that's due to most of our cash at the end of the year was from borrowed funds. We had borrowed $4,500,000 from Valley Business Bank, and we had borrowed from temporary funds $2,238,147. This is due to the state deferring $9.4 million of our cash. So in order for us to make it through to the end of the year, we do cash borrowings. On the last page, we had some comments that we made to the state. On question 7, it says, does the district have significant fiscal problems that must be addressed? And we answered yes. We made these comments here so that the state chancellor would know what state we're in. Doug is going to go into more detail with the budget reports tonight. So we'll go into lots more detail. Are there any questions on the report?
Any questions? Thank you. Consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be enacted with one motion. An item may be removed from the consent calendar at the request of any board member or any person in the audience and considered as a separate item. I am not going to read all of these. Are there any items that need to be withdrawn?
Yes, item, there one is
Wait a minute.
item 3.
Item 3? Is that what you said, John?
Yes, item 3.
Item 3, the minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to request a revision to the minutes of August 13th. I had a request from the Academic Senate President to revise her report. You provided a red line revision of her report, so I ask that you accept it as revised.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve item 4 through 7 and the revised minutes?
Item 3 is not on the agenda.
Yeah, I left it off for you.
You're trying to approve the minutes.
Oh, is that what
This is the one extra item, Mr. President. Pull this one off. and
We'll
take
pull off
action.
item 3. Do I have a motion for 4 through 7?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Motion, all opposed, motion carried 4-0. All right.
I asked you to remove item 3 because the August 13th meeting, I was not here, and therefore I must abstain, so I wanted to remove, so I believe so.
And then
So it's the
we'll
same, revised minutes.
revise minutes. Okay. You have a motion approved?
I move we approve the minutes and regular. Oh, yeah, never mind. I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
An abstention.
And, oh, abstain, yeah. 3-0. Been a long day.
One abstention.
All right. Item 9, budget, district budget. Doug. Mr. Brinkley.
See if I can use this arrow. Yes, I bring forward to the board our 2012-13 budget. You have the full budget in your backup. What I will be giving this evening is as a summary of the unrestricted portions of that budget, and we'll later be asking you to approve that budget. Our budget was based upon several assumptions. So I'm going to outline everything that you're going to see in this presentation. Our budget development assumptions, our full-time equivalency, how that works out, our unrestricted ongoing revenue, that's the, and we really need to look at the ongoing revenue and our unrestricted expenditures that are budgeted, the budget challenges for 2012-13, the year plus one budget, so that would be our 13-14 projected budget, balancing the budget with one-time funds, available one-time funds, as we sort of work out to see how long those one-time resources might last, and then what's next for it. When we developed this budget, again, it's very similar to the tentative budget, is we are assuming that the November tax initiative does not pass, and along with that is there's no additional mid-year budget cuts. Because last year we realized we all of a sudden got hit with $1 million of mid-year budget cuts. So we are also assuming that does not happen. Our funded FTEs will be reduced from the 8,261 that we should have received this year to 7,661. That's the projected by the week. That's a 7.8% loss in funded FTEs. Then our rate per FTE, which is 45.65 on our base allocation, funding remains unchanged, and that's been true for a number of years. There's no deficit factor applied to community college apportionment, and this goes with the idea that there's no additional mid-year cuts as a result of the entity. No cost of living adjustment, and no one-time state funding is anticipated. Expenditure assumptions. Full-time faculty did not change. We had some retirements early on, and one later. We added 2 new full-time faculty, and that we ended up with a net zero change there. Several classified positions remain vacant, and some of those have been vacant last year are unfunded this year. Step and column increases have been funded. District PERS contribution increased from 10.9 to 11.4, it's about 0.5%. District does pay the CSEA PERS contribution, and that did not increase, it's at 7%. Workers' compensation and state unemployment insurances are relatively small amounts of our budget, but we actually had a savings of $125,000 between the two. Medical benefits have been adjusted to reflect an average rate increase of 6.11, so there have been some actions taken this evening that would alter that, but for this budget, that would be the number that we developed it with. Utility budget has been increased $30,000, and any savings and transfers from 2011-12 and transferred from the Tulare have been transferred to the Tulare Center, including what might have been used for operations and programs from the Glenwood Farm budget. So we do have that being adjusted mid-year for us. Categorical funding will not encroach upon unrestricted funds. This is excluding the Child Development Center and the DRC. Those have some encroachment on our funds. FTE generated by the district will be reduced from 9,033 to 8,509. If the tax initiative were to pass, we would have to generate about 8,350 to maximize our revenue. So we have 8,509 as that number. Here's our budget, and here's the big loss with the tax initiative not passing is $4.7 million. You will think I'm crazy for listing $50 million of earned restoration FTEs. If the budget, the tax initiative do pass, we'll earn a little more than $300,000 in growth funding, restoring prior cuts to our budget, and that currently, because of our assumptions, is at zero. I wanted to recognize that as part of the tax initiative, and we chose not to include that as part of the budget. So if the tax initiative were to pass, we net a little more than $3 million. And that's a number that I will come back to later on. Our miscellaneous revenue is $2,929,000. It's down a little bit from last year. We're going to have a few fewer students and revenue. There's been a change in the law for mandated cost reimbursement. The state hasn't funded that program for a long time. They will now fund it at a tune of $28 per full-time funded equivalent. So for every full-time funded student, we'll get $28. They didn't fund it on the reimbursement program, and my guess would be they'll never fund the reimbursement program because they want people to go to 28. The 28 is budgeted, and it does not rely on the tax initiative to be a revenue stream, which is the reason we chose to request that be come to us as an ongoing stream of funding. We can make that decision each year. So next year we can make a decision to submit reimbursement if the state were to fund reimbursement funding. But they probably owe us millions of dollars there anyway, and it's better sort of have a hand in the bush, and that's the way of forcing districts to move that direction.
So you're doing a worst case scenario, you think?
My worst case scenario. The difference is a little more than $3 million if the initiative passes.
And the mid-year cuts, when do you know if you get mid-year cuts, about when? What does that mean?
January. So we don't know that. We actually receive our T1 report mid to late February. You sort of get news when the governor comes out in January with his budget proposal, and then he has to address any type of cuts. So you might see at the middle of January or hear about, but the real number we won't see until the middle of February with our T1 report being reported back to us.
Would you anticipate mid-year cuts? Would those at all be affected by the tax initiative passing or not passing?
We are assuming that it does not pass. Therefore, we would not be affected by the passing or not passing the tax initiative. If our revenue were to change, it'd be as a result of what we called the February surprise last year, where we had 70% rather than 50% of our students receiving BOG waivers, and that was about $1 million to us in less revenue coming through from the state. So it'll be something different. The information we have is that the state has readjusted that 50% up to a 70% in anticipation of more students taking that. They have readjusted property tax income down that we would be receiving. So they've done those readjustments. So there shouldn't be a lot of surprises, but it will be on the taxes that exist today. But I'm not hearing anybody expecting that to happen. It's just 2.7 and the 50 million in growth that will be the surprise. If it surprise for us, if it passes, but that's a good surprise.
And you may have answered this, the change in MTS from 9,330 to 8,509, is that just because we lost it, or is that because the state has said we're only going to give you this much?
The state has said they're only going to pay us for 7,661. And if the tax initiative passes, they will pay us for about 8,350. So we chose the 8,500 for a variety of reasons, but we wanted to have a little cushion. If it does pass, Because we don't want to be chasing after November what we may have lost in the fall. So it's in accordance with the state says we're going to pay you for 8,200 last year, but if it doesn't pass, we're only going to pay you for 7661 this year. So we have to get that number down. There's a huge cost. You know, we're almost all labor, so that's where the huge cost is.
Doug, I mentioned if it fails, the tax initiative fails, the medium-sized college threshold comes down to 85.09. And so we're hedging our bet. If it does fail, we want to chase that 85.09.
That's the other side of this. Why is it 8509 and not 8500? The number being estimated by the state is 8509 in order to hit the middle-sized college. So that's the other side. I didn't want to confuse that in, but that's why it's 8509 and not 8500. And you know, 1 or 2 FTEs doesn't matter, but in this case, it's about $1.1 million. If we can earn it this year, that protects us for 3 more years. So anyway, this is the revenue. You can see we earned $43.3 million. These are our expenditures. You can see by category where all of our expenditures are going into the various numbers. I have included the COPs and the technology expenses down here of $1,382,000. Included in the employee benefits, the reason it says all is that our cost for retiree health benefits is included in this number. You can see that's gone up. This does not reflect any actions taken this evening, so this would have taken it up because of the increases in health benefits that we saw coming at us when we prepared this. So those 3 items, the other post-employment benefits, the retiree health benefits included here, that's about $1,347,000, and you can see how much money is in the COPs and technology. Combining those budgets for last year and this year, last year we had a negative of $1.6 million. Same budget this year has about $4.5 million worth of negative. And that has increased dramatically. Now, assume this 4.5, I'm going to use 4.5, and a $3 million tax initiative passes, and we don't have to serve more students because we're already scheduled at 8509, they're already scheduled to be paid for all the students, or most of the students we're serving this year. You subtract $3 million from that, and that would leave us with about a $1.5 million deficit. So you can see the dilemma the state can put every educational institution into. I'm talking about K-12, community colleges, CSUs, and UCs, is that I would think we're not dissimilar, where we're waiting for November to see if the $3 million materializes. It's not polling well, or well enough. It's polling in the mid-50s, and the experts are very cautious with something that's not polling in the low 60s.
We're going to pass what, 55 or what?
Have to pass it 50 plus 1. But the experts would like to see 62, 63, because if opposition comes out, you lose a substantial number, and I've heard as high as 10% with opposition. So that's the reason we are presenting this. But again, $3 million shot in the arm on this will make a big difference as we go through the process. Will that happen? If I was betting, man, and I can go walk through Tahoe casinos for days and days and hours, never put a dime in the slot machine. But I probably prefer the budget we're looking at as being more realistic than the others.
I would agree.
Now, let's look at what happens if we add a plus year to it. If we add a plus year, that's another, so this is really 13-14 year. That's increases step and column, health and welfare, and it took some action tonight regarding health and welfare, utilities and insurance. No additional staffing, but utilities and insurance, those utilities and insurance cover the additional cost for operating the Tulare Center, but there's no new staffing, and that's about a $1.2 million increase in the budget. In the budget we presented you, there's some details that gets to the $1,175,000. You can see that a year from now, we're going to be looking at $5.6 million in deficit if we don't make a change. Because no one's projecting that if the tax initiative doesn't pass, that next year is going to be any better than this year. So they're projecting it's going to be very flat. If the tax passes this year, then we would have $3 million and another $3 million for next year. But they don't project that the economy is going to turn around, that we're going to see more next year than what we're currently seeing this year. There's just no projection, even with the temporary tax initiative passing, that we're going to see that type of increase. So it gives you an idea of what 1+ does. And you see the big changes from one year to the next. Our unrestricted funds, we look at how we paid for that. Technology was $725,000. COP's $413,000. Our ag reserve picked up some cost of a personnel. That was $179,000. And our fund balance was hit for $292,000. You notice our fund balance is at 6%. It did not increase, but we now have our 6% reserve that's in your board policy. The board did take action at one of the retreats to make the minimum 5%, but we are now back up to 6% as was presented by Linda. That's how we covered the $1.6 million. We look at this year, technology had been budgeted at $1.1 million plus. They didn't spend that much money, so in working with the IT department, that amount was dropped to $922, which he feels was a reasonable number to work with there. This is all the COPs that we can transfer over, $460,000. The OPEB trust, again, that was in the 3,000 category, $1,347,000. A little bit still to the ag reserve, and $996,000 in one-time revenue. When you look at the budget the way accountants would look at it, that's up at the top because it's one-time revenue that's brought back in because it's been deferred, so it shows as revenue, but it's really only there once, and we brought it all back in this time. And just so we can look at one-time revenue opposed to ongoing revenue, I brought it down to this point. And the balance is budget, there's $701,000 in fund balance, so that's, and we'll get to some more of the horror stories here. As we move forward, we don't have that $1 million, that $996,000. You can see that we've increased this 1.2, and so we have to hit our reserves even more. So this just demonstrates the necessity and the solvency challenges that we face as a district to bring everything back in balance. And I have a couple more slides that will probably illustrate some of this. I'm not very happy camper when people accuse me of hiding money. I can probably hide money better than I do.
So
Lori?
if we look at that budget +1, is it fair to say then that fund balance draw would deplete our reserves then?
Yeah, you'll see that. But anyway, looking at that hiding money, I just thought, well, let's put up where we have money. Here's our big dollars. We have a general fund reserve, and you took action to make that a minimum of 5. It's at 6. It should be 6. The state minimum is 5, but it really should be. You can see how fast it can go down. I threw in the farm reserve. There's money in the farm reserve. There's farm operation. We have some money in capital projects. Not a lot. Once the Tulare built and the bond's out and the state money's gone, that's all going to be pretty much depleted. We have contractual obligations to employees, retiree health and welfare. We have bank leave. In the restricted area, we have categorical that's restricted. We have our OPEB trust. That is the union bank account. And I want to state today that that's the trustee bank. And that trustee bank is changing to the U.S. bank. So the union bank account will no longer be union, it will be U.S. bank. Union is getting out of the business of handling these types of trusts. U.S. Bank is a very large, I think it's one of the 7 largest banks in the United States, And they have not been on everybody's radars. You don't hear about them because they haven't been out there like the Wells Fargo and B of A and Citi and all those others that have been looked at. The very reputable bank, they will become the trust bank. So that account will change names if you are going by the trustee, but realize Union is now, and this is our irrevocable trust for the retiree medical benefits. And then we have the Visalia bond, which has very specific expenditure bond language in the bond that allows us to pay for technology and pay for certificates of participation. Here's where you see where we end up. If I take the OPEB account, which is $4.7 million, the Visalia bond, and this information is in the budget book, the Visalia bond has about $3 million that can be dedicated to technology that isn't already committed to other improvements on the Visalia campus. And if I include, and I wouldn't recommend doing this, but because it's a very large number, just so we can see where we end up if we use all of our resources, I include the farm reserve, not the operation, but the farm reserve is about $1.2 million. That was from the sale of part of the Linwood farm, and it's been in this reserve. But if we just pulled out all stops, that retiree health benefits, there's about $454,000 in one of our district accounts that was put aside for the retiree health benefits. We have the one-time reserve of that's coming in as revenue of almost $1,996,000. And we have a general fund reserve of $2,729,400. Now you notice that's a little different than the 311. Probably a few $1,000s different. It all depends on when those reports were put together. The 311 was just done recently, so there's a few $1,000s difference because all of them are unaudited actuals that we are working with. You can see our total available resources. Now what's not up there is the farm account. What's not up there is the bank for leaves that we do with employee leave. That's an owed account. I would put it very similar to the retiree health and welfare, but that can be drawn much quicker if somebody were to take enough leaves on top of us. So if we do this and we take how we were paid for our account this year, $1,347,000, $1,382,000 is the sum of the retiree that we've included in the budget, COP and technology, and the $1 million and the $701,000 we're looking for. You can see that we draw down pretty fast to 3.7, 1.6, and 3.4. And again, without any action such as you've taken this evening, that $1,347,000 draws again to $2 million. And this would be our estimated beginning balance in 14-15. This is $327,000 left in the Visalia bond, which draws down really fast, and that's okay. It's one of those that we probably need to expend quicker than later because of arbitrage and some other IRS implications on it. But you can see that the last column ends up with $808,000. Our 5% is $2,719,000. You can see that our shortfall on a general fund reserve is here pretty fast. Now, taking actions early on in the year starts to change everything as you multiply out for 2 years. There's a super compounding effect. When you $100,000 this year looks like $200,000 when you get out to next year. And if it's so that's what we're looking at in terms of. But you can see the effect that 1 year has on these. And how 2 years. And the farm reserve is thrown in. I don't recommend doing that, but I did want to not to have a substantial amount of money brought into this discussion in fairness of transparency. Now this is an interesting one. It's not quite that lime color. But this looks at our ongoing revenue for the last 2 years and our adopted budget this year and how that has changed. And notice here in yellow, I identified the 996,000. As I mentioned, that's revenue. That will stay up in the revenue portion, but the reality is it's one-time revenue. It's not like our miscellaneous income. It's not like our FTE revenue. These two numbers will add to the number that we provided to you. So we put this in here, and then we lay out what our expenses were. And this is something that hasn't been done every time. We went back here and we spent out of the technology $452,000 in 10-11 towards technology from the Visalia bond. $725,000, you saw that in the presentation. We spent that amount, and $413,000 into the bond. So this is what, that's about the $1.1 million that I showed in the previous slide that we spent here. And as we're projecting forward, 460, 922, and 1,347,000 into this number. So those are really pretty big numbers. You can see we're doing a little deficit spending here. I did not put this 1,347,000 back into this number. You can see that it looks like that is a drop. I didn't put it in here because I wanted to recognize that it was a one-time funding source that we're using. So it's not placed back up into the 3,000 category as earlier in the presentation. So it's not meant to trick anybody. The number adds up to the same number at the bottom. It's just put down here so we can see how much that one-time source is. And I highlight the revenue that's a one-time source as well. This is the number that really starts to concern me. This is 83.4%. This is ongoing, this is the percent of ongoing revenue. Now normally if you have a balanced budget, you don't care if you're really using ongoing revenue or ongoing expenses because they're pretty close. But in this example, by using ongoing revenue, 83%, that's what you expect to have. 87 is a little high, but it's not out of range. 83 to 85, 86, 87. 83 is better. This is what we're paying for salaries as a percent. And you can see all the other categories down below. This is where we are this year with the budget the way we have presented it, absent your actions this evening and recommendations that will be coming forward with you as part of the solvency plan. But you can see that you can't take a change from $47.7 million in ongoing revenue to $42.3 million in ongoing revenue and not make a lot of changes here. 20.4, 20 million, 8.2, 8.9. This is 10. This has 130, the 1.3 added up into it, so that'd be 10.2. So you can't have these remaining similar and this top number dropping so fast without seeing this. And that's where we really do have to make changes to salary. 91% salary, and you can see there's 6% we're coming in down below here. So you can see there's a lot of money floating around in this category. That probably gives you a real good picture of where we are. If you increase by $3 million it really changes this whole perspective. But, you know, as we've discussed, I don't know that that's where we need to be or want to be wishing for. Where are we? Well, currently we've looked at a +1 budget, and that's what I shared with you this evening. We're in the process of developing a multi-year budget projection and a solvency plan to demonstrate what has to be done in very broad general terms. We'll have some specific thoughts in our mind, but broad general terms that have to be done should the tax initiative not pass, and in some cases, it'll have to be done anyway, because we need to cut about $1.4, $1.5 million out of the budget, just to be balanced. You can see we don't have a lot of latitude. We have 6% reserve. Everything else is really committed to contractual obligations, bank leave, retirees. The idea with retirees is we committed to pay them and not pay them out of money that should be spent otherwise to operate the campus. We'll identify within the budget potential for budget cuts, and I wrestled with this, potential for savings not previously identified and reduced. There may be areas that are maybe a little over budgeted, and so we'll keep looking at that. Cuts are a little different than looking for that savings if we were maybe a little too generous. Develop a 2-year budget reduction plan to bring us back into structural. And actually, develop over 2 years, we have to look at the 3rd year because step and column and other increases that naturally occur. So we have to look at what that 3rd year looks like and whether we believe that 3rd year would be a flat year or not. Achieve employee concession, budget savings through the due process of collective bargaining. Review and propose a percentage of FTEs to be earned by the college in excess of the state-funded level. You already saw that we were looking at the 8,509. That's really a critical number for us to reach that mid-sized college. If the tax initiative does not pass, we only get paid for 7,661. So we really want to serve about 850 more than we're being funded for. And probably the one that I have to put in there is Hope's Proposition 30 passes, resulting in $3 million increase, and we only have about $1.5 million out rather than $3 million. And that's the best case scenario as we look at this, and that's where I finish this. That's where we're going next, and I'll be willing to answer any questions or whatever the board.
Any questions? I have some comments on the corporate.
Can you explain what is outgo and outlay? Because I saw that on the budget and I don't really understand that.
Capital outlay is when you buy equipment.
Okay.
So if you buy a vehicle or something that is permanent, lasts more than 3 years, would be in capital outlay budget.
And also the outgo? Is it the same thing, the outlay and the outgo?
Some of the outgo is transfers to another fund.
Okay, and I was also looking over the budget summary. Can you explain why we are putting so much into travel and conferences?
Some of that's required by contract, other of it, depending on which budget you're looking at, other is in categorical.
Can I clarify? When he says required by contract, honey, what he means is in our employment agreement with our faculty association, we're obligated to give by contract a certain amount of money for faculty to be able to do travel and conference. So some goes into there. And then some of it's tied to the grant programs that we receive and the legal programs that we participate in. In order to be eligible to continue to get the money each year, you have to attend trainings to remain current in some of those areas.
And what about, like, why do we have laundry services? That doesn't make sense to me. What are laundry services for?
That's probably in athletics.
Is that athletics?
Maybe, I don't know.
I would, there's probably several things to that. Athletics would have some entry things for floors, or usually, when you walk in and you're on the carpet that you walk through on so you don't slip, that would be considered part of a laundry service.
The item in the budget may say laundry service, but it might be a company that provides us replacement and cleaning of the entry-level mats at all the doors and that kind of thing.
Okay, and then also bad debt expense. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Usually that's students who owe us money to
Okay, so.
walk away and don't pay.
Okay.
Should we elaborate on that a little more?
That one I didn't.
Lottery and forest reserve revenue.
Lottery is the amount of money we receive per FTE. It's about $125, $6 per. And forest reserve, if there's money coming in, it's federal money for logging within our district. Okay. If you aren't, you can see me.
Interfund transfers.
What?
It says interfund transfers in.
Yeah, interfund
That's like
transfer.
the last one I have, I promise.
Oh, that's okay.
Those are where other funds might send money to us. So we have a number of different funds, and so they work back and forth between themselves. So they're all our funds, our money. It's just a category. I don't think there's a lot of money.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We need to have a public hearing. The public hearing is open. Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Action.
Greg, I want to make a few comments.
Yes, go ahead, I'm sorry, John.
Right.
Get ahead of myself.
I want to share with you that I agree with your assumptions. You thought about it far longer than I had. Everything you mentioned, what I would have done. I hope the rest of the board agrees. There's a couple things though that really should stand out. One is that FTES of 8,500. If I wouldn't want to be the board or some others in the room if we end up with 8,508 and the bond passes. I assume the administration will monitor that carefully. The biggest part of what we heard is Doug outlined the serious work a lot of people have to do. If we're looking at a $5.6 million deficit in budget year plus one, that's a lot of work for the board, a lot of work for the administration, but maybe a lot of work for the CSEA and stop it too. We obviously need to do whatever we need to do to balance the budget. And the only way that we can do that and have the college be a good place to be is if all the people I mentioned are part of the solution. Steve, I appreciate the comment you made earlier. Perhaps I'll talk to you about sometime. Perhaps since the leadership of this Costa is not here, you can share things for. And anyway, Doug, I think that the presentation makes it easier for us to understand. And I, for one, concur with your thought process.
Okay, it's recommended that the board approve the final 2012-2013 budget. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, I have a oral second. Is there any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
No.
No. The agendas are running together. Okay, all those in favor of the final budget approved, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Annual adoption limit, appropriation limit.
Yes, this is an annual, it used to mean something back in 1979 and early 80s, but now it's more of a perfunctory obligation we have. We calculated our appropriation limit to be $86,513.dollars, and there's $37,882,147 subject to that. We can't have a larger budget than 86 million. We should be so lucky. So we'd like for the board to adopt the resolution as presented, and
So moved.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Zumwalt.
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza. Trustee Mann.
Aye.
Trustee Sherman.
Aye. Approval of appointments of members to the Citizens Measure I Committee. Mr. Pearson.
We have an item before you tonight to actually consider approval of appointment to some vacancies on the Measure I Committee and the Measure J Bond Oversight Committees. You'll recall under Prop 39 that Citizens Bond Oversight Committees need to consist of a minimum of 7 members, and they have to represent specific different categories of our college community. For example, business organizations, senior citizens, taxpayer groups, student organizations, etc. You'll see the terms of office that expire here in the placement of these officers. Under Measure I, we're recommending as a representative for a student organization, Kayla Pace, and also a college support organization. In our case, happens to be representative from the College of the Sequoias Foundation, Josh McDonald. Those two have stepped forward to participate effective July 2012 through the respective terms that you see there, 1-year term for Kayla and a 2-year term for Josh. And then on Measure J, we have our annual appointment of our student organization representative, Juan Moreno, for July 2012 through June 2013. And our recommended action is that the board approve appointment of these individuals.
Do you have a motion? A second? Bill? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Change orders. Are we ready for that already? Yeah. You'll make it quick tonight, huh?
I will make it quick. Motion to approve. This first set of change orders is for the administration building, North Wing. There's two groups in here. Nothing substantial here. There's a credit for the lack of demolition of the Mariposa building, which you'll recall we sold to the University Prep High School. And so there was a couple of unforeseen circumstances in the demolition contract, and then some change orders for the steel studs, gyp, and drywall contract. The project is 99.9% complete. We're doing the finished landscaping where we demolished the Manzanita building, and folks have occupied the building. Two waves, or two groups so far, and we're going to be finishing off the other groups, moving into the building on September 17th and 18th. So it's recommended the board approve the change orders for the demolition abatement and steel studs, gypsum, drywall, and plaster portions of the administration remodel for efficiency project.
Do I have a motion approved? Second. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Item 13 are change orders for multiple contracts for the Tulare Center Phase 3 project. There is one for the plumbing contractor and another for the roofing contract. They're very small, but we're just trying to continue processing the pipeline. The project is about 96% complete. We're getting ready to move into the equipment move-in phase. We will be ready for classes the 1st of January. This is a Measure J funded project, and it is recommended the Board of Trustees approve the change orders for the plumbing and roofing portions of the Tulare Center Phase 3 Farm Animal Complex project.
Do you have a motion? So moved. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 14.
These are the change orders for the Tulare Phase 1 state-funded project. As you'll all recall, we have multiple projects going on out in Tulare, so there's separate contracts for all of them, separate fund sites. So these change orders are for the HVAC, paving, and steel studs, drywall, and plaster portions of the project. This project is now 99% complete from a construction standpoint, and we will be moving into the equipment move-in phase in the month of October. We have no legal issues with the Phase 1. I should have mentioned that on Phase 3. I think we discussed we're getting into some potential litigation with one vendor on Phase 3. On Phase 1, we have no potential litigation at this time. There is currently a balance in the contingency budget of $465,000. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the change orders for the HVAC, paving, and steel stud, drywall, and plaster portions of the Tulare Phase 1 state project.
Motion, please.
Before you go ahead, I'd like to comment a bit.
Okay.
The last time I was in this room, there was roundly criticized, I was roundly criticized for doing schoolwork. One of the items on here is a back charge from Zumwalt Construction Inc. And for the record, Zumwalt Construction Inc. and Zumwalt Henson Associates Civil Engineering Lab Surveyors are not the same company, not the same people. If I'm related to this particular Zumwalt, I've discussed it, our common relatives go back to the 1740s. Anyway, it isn't me that this is getting approved for.
Thank you for that clarification.
I move we approve the change orders.
Second.
John, how was it?
John, that's All right, I have a motion to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Note here on the October 8th, COS trustee meeting will be held in Tulare at our new Tulare Center. Joint meeting with the City Council and the Tulare Joint Unified High School District will follow the board meeting, the COS board meeting. We'll have a joint dinner, and then we'll go into the meeting. We just want to say thank all of you for being here tonight. We appreciate the comments. The board did what we did tonight. It was not fun. The board did what we knew we had to do. So with that, I'll close the meeting.